That's really the only difference. As
really
Ned
good.
Flanders once said, well, if it's clear and yellow, you got juice there, fella. If it's tangy and brown, you're in cider town. It's wise things, wise words from a great man named Ned Flanders. Hey, everybody.
Welcome to Cometa Camera.
It's Camera Academy with your friends Nicolai over there and Nick over here. I got the names backwards.
Yes.
But that's okay.
That's all right. I called the show Cometa Camera.
Oh, yeah, you did. Shame on you, Nick.
Welcome to Cometa Camera. No, welcome to Camera Academy.
Camera Academy, the podcast where we try and explain various photography concepts.
Keyword try.
We really do try. You're going to have to let us know if we've succeeded in any way.
Or at least entertained you.
Yeah.
That's what
all
we're
we can
aiming
hope
for.
is a slight bit of entertainment.
And knowledge. You know, just a little sprinkle of it there.
You can either, if you don't actually learn anything from this podcast, at the very least, maybe you've killed a ride home or, run out the clock on a Friday at work.
There you go.
So, that's...
So, today's topic.
Oh, yes, we're going to talk about something today. Today's topic is going to be camera types.
Yes.
Different types of cameras.
3 specifically.
Yeah, well, there's lots
episode.
of camera types, but today we're going to talk about the 3 main types, which are DSLR, mirrorless, and
point and shoot.
Yep. And basically what we want to do is give you, the consumer, sort of a little bit of background knowledge about each kind, the pros and cons, so that when you're ready to buy a new camera, you can make a more informed decision.
All right.
Yeah.
So, let's start with the most
Before we do
basic.
that, I just wanted to say...
Talk about our sponsor?
Yeah, well, we don't have any sponsors.
We are our
This is
sponsor.
not an ad-supported show. This is a Cometa Camera-supported show. We actually get paid for this.
Yes.
So if you can believe it. We would beseech you all to visit Cometa.com, and when you are ready to buy a new camera, get it from us.
Yes.
Because we're a small little business, and we need all the help we can get. Also, you can get some pretty good deals at Cometa.com. So when you're done hopefully enjoying Camera Academy, you can head over to Cometa.com and browse our vast selection of cameras and photography accessories.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, on to the topic at hand.
Oh, you're not going to add to my plug in any way?
Cometa.com. Go there.
All right, yeah.
That's my
And we're on
plug.
Facebook and Twitter and all that. But let's talk about different camera types. So, let's start off with the big
most,
boy.
Yeah, the most basic. Let's go with the digital SLR.
Yeah. All right, so SLR, what does it mean?
That stands for single lens reflex.
That's a pretty old term, isn't it?
Yes.
So that basically means that you have a camera with a single lens that can be changed, and the reflex part has to do with light entering the lens, bouncing up off of a mirror, bouncing off another mirror, going through the viewfinder, and going into your eye. So basically it means it has an optical viewfinder and it has a mirror mechanism inside. That's basically what a DSLR is in modern terms.
So, what are the best uses for a digital SLR or its main selling points?
Well, first off, DSLRs are probably, you'll notice they're the bulkiest of all the cameras out there.
Yes, they're the big boys.
And that makes them very versatile because they can take on lots of different lenses. Also, you have more surface area for controls. And you also get a nice big comfortable grip with most DSLRs.
It fits nice in the hands.
Yep. And by and large, you get lots of features, the professional level features that you wouldn't be able to get with point and shoots for the most part. And DSLRs, of course, have a long legacy of lenses, especially when you're shooting with Canon and Nikon.
Yes.
So let's go over these benefits one by one. Number one, I would say the biggest thing is that you can change the lenses, and there is a big selection of lenses to choose from.
Yes. Anywhere from wide angle to telephoto, one that has both of them, prime lenses, pancake lenses, macro lenses, super telephoto lenses.
So many lenses.
So many different, and that's just the types. Think of all the ones that are in between there.
Now, whether you're shooting with a Canon DSLR, a Nikon DSLR, or a Sony SLT, which is like a DSLR but has a translucent mirror in it so that you can actually get a full-time live view. Regardless of which type of SLR you're shooting with, there are lots of lenses available that date back decades. So for me, the best part about having a DSLR is that you can use lenses that are made for that system, or you can adapt lenses that have been made for previous systems, and you have literally hundreds of lenses that you can choose from. You can buy lenses on the cheap. You can have them adapted for modern autofocus systems. You can have them adapted for different types of cameras. For example, you can get a Canon lens and adapt it for a Sony camera, or vice versa. So there's lots of versatility that you have with a DSLR that you wouldn't be able to have with a newer type of camera system like a mirrorless camera.
Second benefit to me is they come in a various different types from beginner to professional, as well as basic sensor types too. It's got a lot of different sensor types you can use with them. So there's micro four thirds, there's APS-C, and there's full frame.
Well, I hate to correct you on that, but there are no micro four
There
thirds
aren't?
for DSLRs now.
You sure?
Positive.
Oh, you know what? I'm thinking of
Your regular 4/3. Olympus used to make 4/3 sensor cameras, but
Yeah.
they no longer make DSLRs.
Oh, so they don't make them anymore.
They don't make those, and even the 4/3 are smaller than the current crop sensors.
Oh.
So those kind of fell out of favor as soon as Olympus started introducing their mirrorless line.
So you have a lot of different types of APS-C and full frames then.
Yeah. You're basically working with 3 different manufacturers. If you're going with a DSLR, you're going with Canon, Nikon, and if you're going with the translucent mirrors, you're going with Sony. And like you said, there's 2 different sizes. There's different sizes of sensors. APS-C is a crop sensor, which means basically it's a little bit smaller, and then there's the full frame sensor, which is basically the size of a 35 millimeter frame of film. That's where you get the full frame name, and those are the more professional style DSLRs. So you have a whole range of DSLRs that you can choose from, starting from entry levels that start around $400 with a kit lens, all the way up to like $4,000 to $5,000 professional level cameras, and there's a lot
higher.
of stuff in between.
Yep.
So you have a lot to choose from, and they also range in size. There are some compact DSLRs, and there are some larger ones. However, most of them are going to be larger than any mirrorless camera, and they're also going to be a bit more comfortable when you're shooting with them because they'll have a nice big grip on the side, and they usually have kind of a rounded form factor to them, so they're more comfortable to shoot with overall. So if you've got big hands, or if you just like to have something more substantial in your hands, then a DSLR is probably the way to go.
Yeah, I'd say ergonomically on a professional level, if you're going to be shooting like for multiple hours a day, it's like there's nothing like having a DSLR in your hand compared to like the smaller cameras.
Now, yes, they'll be heavier, they'll be bulkier, and they'll be more cumbersome to travel with, but for some people that's not what they get the camera for, or that's not a deal breaker for them.
Yes.
Mirrorless cameras came around because people wanted to have something more compact, but if you're shooting with a DSLR, then you already know what you're getting into, and having a rather bulky camera is not something that's going to be a hindrance to you, I don't think, for most people. And part of that is because the extra real estate that you get with a bigger camera allows you to have more controls. And that's another big selling point for most DSLRs, except for the real compact ones, is that you have more space to put more features on there. And it's better than using controls that either
Are buried in a menu.
they're buried in menus, or they're like buttons that have multiple functions.
Yeah.
So you have to press one button, hold one button while you press another one,
button,
or
yep.
things like that. Those are things that you do to save space. With DSLRs, you don't necessarily have to save that space. You can have dedicated controls for different functions on your camera, and that makes them more intuitive to work with and definitely faster to work with when you're trying to change aperture and shutter speed settings and things like that.
Yes. So let's see, what else?
Thanks for your input, Nicolai. Yes.
Yes. Oh, I'm trying to think of the next pro for them.
Well,
They're good at photo and video.
Yes, well, I think that goes for most
most
cameras,
cameras.
but definitely DSLRs have upped their game in the last few years as far as video goes. In years gone by, you might not have gone with a DSLR because the live view functioning wasn't that great.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe it had issues with lenses as far as video autofocus goes. But now you'll see that lots of DSLRs are actually being used for professional shooting, professional small short films and things of that nature. Like I know the Canon 7D is very popular. The Nikon D810 or the D850 now, those are very popular video style video DSLRs.
I believe the back in the day, the 5D Mark II was actually the first digital SLR to be used to film like an A-class movie. I think they filmed Transformers with them.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
That seems hard to believe.
I'm pretty sure it was.
that Michael Bay was making a movie and didn't spend $1 billion on the most expensive camera available.
Well, I mean, it was a pretty expensive camera back then.
Maybe they just blew them up, as they do in every scene. There's an explosion. As a plane flies overhead, I'm worrying about it. Bursting through the window, Michael Bay style. So there are plenty of benefits to having a DSLR. They're very versatile. For the most part, they're pretty powerful. You can get some of your absolute best imagery from DSLRs, and there's a long list of lenses available for each system. Canon, of course, has tons of lenses dating decades back. Nikon, I think, goes even further back with their F-mount, and Sony purchased all of the rights to Minolta back in the day. Well, I wouldn't say back in the day, but not too long ago, maybe about 10 years ago.
That was my first 35mm.
And all of your Minolta lenses would be able to fit on Sony A-mount cameras.
Yes.
Now, whether they're fully compatible or not sure. There's plenty of adapters out there, and there's concessions to be made, but you will be able to use old lenses on new bodies. So you get to use a wide variety of equipment, and you can use them now and into the future. So a DSLR is very versatile and very nice to have. And if you're able to deal with the size, then I think a DSLR is a great way to go. And you can get them relatively cheap too. If you want to get started into interchangeable lens photography, a DSLR can be had pretty cheap.
I also like the optical viewfinders on digital SLR cameras.
Oh yes, that's an important thing to mention. Because they do have the light enter the lens and go right up into the optical viewfinder.
You're seeing what
that
happens
gives you
right
a
there,
completely
right
different
now.
perspective than if you had a point and shoot or something with an electronic viewfinder. So explain how that is a benefit.
Well, first off, you're not having to look through, as far as electronic versus optical, you're getting pretty much exactly what you see in your eye through the lens. So you can kind of see what the lens kind of effect is having on it. It's a lot snappier and quicker to me, personally.
So there's no lag.
There's
is
no
basically
lag,
what you're
exactly. When you're shooting in low light, it's a lot, I don't know how to explain it.
I would say autofocus usually performs better.
Yeah,
in low light.
autofocus faster in low light with that. And flash photography to me is a lot easier with an optical viewfinder as far as framing everything up and getting everything the way you want it.
Okay. Now, that being said, there are some downsides to DSLRs. Number one, that is the issue that most people have, is that they're bulky.
Size.
Yeah.
Yep.
They can be heavy. When you get a bunch of lenses, that can really weigh you down. So traveling with a DSLR is not exactly something that you want to do. Let's see. Some people prefer to have an electronic viewfinder so that they have a preview of their exposures, or so they have full-time live view.
Which we'll get into.
We'll get into that, of course.
Frame rates are a little bit faster on mirrorless cameras versus the
because
digital
there's
SLR.
actually a mirror mechanism that has to flip out of the way with each exposure. That slows things down quite a bit. So the fastest frame rates you can get on a legit DSLR are, what, 8 frames per second, something like that?
I think so, yeah.
So it's pretty fast, but it's not keeping up with mirrorless cameras of, at least for today's standards. So you are kind of limited as far as your frame rate goes. What else? I would say that's about it.
Yeah, that's really about it.
There's not too many downsides to DSLR, the main thing being the
the size.
And if you want to get a professional level DSLR, you're also dealing with pretty extreme cost. Things like Nikon's 5D.
Yeah, they're like upwards in like $8,000 just for the body.
The top level stuff is really, really expensive. And there are no mirrorless cameras that are in that range just yet.
The A9's almost there.
The A9's expensive, and if you go with medium format, Fujifilm's mirrorless is pretty expensive too.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's mirrorless. That's a sensor size higher than everything else.
So, all right, let's talk about mirrorless cameras then. Basically, you're getting the same benefit as a DSLR in that you can change the lenses out. The difference there being is that you don't have decades worth of lenses to choose from. Mirrorless cameras were, I don't want to say invented, but developed about 10 years ago or so, starting with Panasonic, Olympus, and Sony getting into the market first, and then later on came Canon, Nikon. Samsung was around for a while. They had some cameras, and they're no longer making cameras.
And
then, of course,
my personal favorite, Fujifilm.
Fujifilm. And they do exclusively mirrorless now.
Yes.
So there are plenty of brands to choose from, which gives you plenty of different options as far as lenses and features go. So if you are going to start shopping for mirrorless cameras, then you're probably going to do even more research than you would if you were looking for a DSLR, because it's just a wider range of people getting into the game.
All right. So, main benefits of an ILC/mirrorless camera.
They're smaller.
Number one, smaller.
Yep.
Fit in your bag, not too much weight. Bring it with you every day.
Right. And the main reason for that is that they don't have a mirror mechanism inside. The light goes through the lens and hits right on the image sensor. So you're not dealing with an actual physical mechanism that directs the light up into an optical viewfinder. That's because there is no optical viewfinder on any mirrorless camera.
All electronic.
So those benefits that you mentioned before that come with a DSLR, you won't be able to get on any mirrorless camera.
Second benefit, electronic viewfinder.
As we deride the electronic viewfinder, we also say how great it is, because electronic viewfinders are getting better and better and better. The refresh rates are getting faster and faster, and you're able to get some different benefits than, the optical viewfinder has its advantages, but an electronic viewfinder has its advantages as well.
Yeah, so electronic viewfinder, you basically get a live preview of what your image is going to look like before you take it. So with an optical, you're seeing kind of real life. You click it, and then the picture can look completely different depending on your settings in the camera. So let's say your white balance or something is off, and your photo comes out completely warm, and you forgot to check it before you left wherever you were shooting. It's like now you're stuck with that and having to try and deal with it post-process. With an electronic viewfinder, you can get a real-life preview live in the electronic viewfinder, so you know exactly what that picture is going to look like before you press the shutter button.
You can also think of an electronic viewfinder as just a condensed version of what you have on your live view screen. But most photographers prefer to hold the camera up to their eye, not only so they can see it without glare, but because it helps them keep the camera steadier as well. So having an electronic viewfinder, especially one that has a very fast refresh rate, and they're getting really, really good these days, it obviously doesn't give you all the benefits of an optical viewfinder. Like you said, the low light performance is not there, at least not at this point, through the viewfinder, but they're still pretty darn good. Yeah.
I mean, I have to say, like, Sony's come a very, very long way with their their digital viewfinders.
Yes. And at this point, there are some cameras that don't even have any blackout. Like, normally if you shoot with an electronic viewfinder and you shoot at a fast frame rate, you'll see little frames of black go in and out. And it'll look a little stuttery. And that's really not the case anymore with some of the higher end viewfinders. So it's getting better and better. All right, what other benefits do we have for mirrorless cameras?
Let's see. Compactness, electronic viewfinder, frame rates.
Frame rate is a big one. So you don't have that mirror flipping out of the way. That means that you can shoot even faster.
Yes.
So even cameras that have been around for a long time, I've said it before, but again, I shoot with an A6000 and it gets 11 frames per second. That camera's 3 years old and it wasn't even expensive when I got it. That's pretty impressive frame rate. It's loud. The shutter is like, really, really loud, but that's a pretty impressive frame rate for a inexpensive mirrorless camera.
Yeah, and actually, speaking of sounds, at the higher priced ones, I guess, the more technologically advanced mirrorless cameras, your shutter can be virtually silent from an electronic shutter. So if you're in instances like at church or at a wedding or someplace where you really don't want to be making a lot of sound because something's going on, you have that option of firing completely silent.
So yes, frame rate is a big benefit for mirrorless cameras, and at this point, we've seen frame rates past 20 frames per second in full resolution. So that's going to continue getting better and better, I would imagine. And with the silent burst shooting, that's a big benefit. So definitely those are things that I would veer towards mirrorless for.
Yeah. And then I think the final pro that I have is, and the main reason that I bought a mirrorless camera, coming from using digital SLRs professionally and basically throughout my entire adult life, I'm going to carry it. I'm going to carry it everywhere.
Yeah, well, that goes
so
to the
compact.
compactness. Yeah, but you're right. Having as the saying goes, the best camera that you can have is the one you carry with you.
Yes.
I'm probably paraphrasing and screwing that up. I don't know if someone famous said that, but that you get the idea. If you have a camera with you, you're going to use it to take pictures. That's why people take pictures with their smartphones. Even though in every way it's inferior to most cameras out there, it's always in your pocket, and you're going to be able to capture moments on the fly. So the smaller your camera, the more likely you are to have it with you, and therefore a mirrorless is a good compromise between sort of a full-fledged, very versatile DSLR and a point-and-shoot. It lies somewhere in the middle where you're going to have it more often, and you're going to use it more often, and you don't have to sacrifice too much image quality, if at all, because mirrorless cameras now are being used by professionals.
All right, so let's talk about some of the downsides.
Yeah, well...
there's really not too many in my book.
If you like an optical viewfinder,
yes,
you can't get one.
There are some rangefinder mirrorless cameras that you have that basically it'll put a digital overlay over like an optical... I don't even know you really consider it optical.
They're kind of like it's basically like a rangefinder.
Yeah, it's
window.
like a rangefinder. It'll have like a little digital overlay of like the crop of where you're shooting and everything.
Right.
But you can't zoom in and out of it.
Right. It's not a one-to-one representation of what you're seeing.
Yeah.
And I've never seen one like that, so I don't know what you're talking about.
X Pro 2.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the X Pros have a little window on the side.
Oh, I did not know that.
They do.
Well, Mr. Fujifilm, thank you for informing me. I had no idea.
See, me and you are both learning things on this
I'm learned. So, all right.
You don't have the lens selection like you're going to have on a digital SLR.
Yeah.
Or the accessory selection.
There is a pretty good lens selection for Sony, for Olympus, and Panasonic. Fujifilm has a good selection, but they're more discerning sort of about what they come out with.
Yeah.
And I think you have more high-quality lenses coming from Fujifilm, but less of them.
Yeah. Although they are getting up there with their lens selection now.
Yeah, well, because Fujifilm has been exclusively focusing on mirrorless for a good 10 years now, so this is where their future lies, and I think they're doing a good job of introducing more lenses, not only entry-level stuff, but professional-level stuff, to make their products more desirable to professional shooters.
All right. And my probably biggest downfall with the mirrorless that I've noticed is battery life. Even though it's getting better, but they drain batteries pretty fast.
Yeah. The reason for that being is that when you're using a mirrorless camera, there's basically a screen of some type on at all times.
Yes.
So whether you're looking through the electronic viewfinder or looking through the live view monitor on the back, there's always a screen that's on. And if you ever look at your smartphone, you look at the power consumption, it's the screen that takes up all of the power, and the same will hold true for your mirrorless camera. And then there's other functions that require additional electricity. For example, with a faster frame rate, you're going to be shooting more photos, you're going to be processing more photos, you're going to be storing more photos to your memory card. So that requires extra power. There's the fact that it's always hitting your image sensor, and your image sensor is always like calculating what the exposure is going to be.
Yep.
Whereas if you're shooting with a DSLR, that light goes into your camera, bounces up into your optical viewfinder, and does nothing. It doesn't start metering until you actually tell it to. So there's a difference between that and an electronic viewfinder. So it's always using power is basically what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's more computerized than your typical DSLR will be.
Yeah, and that's really about it for mirrorless for me.
Well, there is one more that has more to do with the industry than the format.
Okay.
And that's the fact that the two biggest players out there, Canon and Nikon, don't really have a big mirrorless presence in the United States. So you've got Sony, Olympus, Panasonic, and Fujifilm dividing up the market share, and then you've got Canon and Nikon kind of lagging behind. And
they mainly concentrate on the digital SLRs.
Yeah, I mean, obviously their big market out there is DSLRs, and for Canon they also have camcorders, and they have a lot of office products too.
Yeah.
But they haven't really done a lot of development as far as the mirrorless market is concerned. Canon has very little lens selection. Nikon has very little camera and lens selection, and Nikon is rumored to be coming out with a full-frame mirrorless system next year in 2018. It still remains to be seen whether that's going to happen, because Nikon hasn't exactly been lighting it up with sales the past couple of years. There's been problems on a corporate level. So we're waiting on Canon and Nikon to catch up with the other people in this segment of the industry. So far it hasn't happened. So if you're a Canon or a Nikon fan, you're kind of out of luck when it comes to mirrorless selection.
That's why I went to Fuji.
Yep, well, that's why you went with Fuji. I've got a Sony, and we'll see down the line if Canon and Nikon, them being the two, biggest players in the photo industry, if they're going to sort of catch up. And if so, I think that's good for photographers. All right, so there's one more segment of the market that we should talk about, and that is the point-and-shoot camera.
The good old point-and-shoots.
So, point-and-shoots, basically, these days, it basically refers to any type of fixed-lens camera, because there is such a huge variety of point-and-shoot cameras to choose from now. But when I first started working here at Cometa, it was basically you had a couple cameras that had a long zoom range, and then most of the other ones could fit into your pocket. They were relatively inexpensive. A lot of them used AA batteries, which is almost never the case anymore.
Yep. I think my first digital point and shoot was a Canon 2.1 megapixel ELF, I think they were called.
Oh yeah, well they're still called ELF. Some
Yeah.
of them are anyway. Oh wait, no, they're not. They're all called Power Shots.
Yeah.
But I think there was a Power Shot and there was
Elf.
a Power Shot ELF.
Yeah.
And then I guess they went.
Maybe
with
it was just a Power Shot.
I think they were
don't
just trying to
remember.
say. I think that's the very compact ones.
Yeah.
Because they're nice and cute, like a little elf on a shelf.
Elf on a shelf. Anyway. So yeah, point and shoots kind of like, well, just your general point and shoots kind of got phased out by the ever expanding smartphone market.
Yes, there's really no casual point and shoots anymore. There are a few of them. Canon and Nikon make a few of them, and they're bargain priced and they don't have really any great features on them, but they still make them.
Yes.
So if you just want to spend $100-$150 on a camera and just have something that'll get regular pictures, if you don't have a smartphone, or if you really have a lousy smartphone that takes terrible pictures, like me, then a good, a little point and shoot that slides into your pocket and just takes easy, casual snapshots. They still make them. We still carry a few of them. You can still get them.
Yeah.
But primarily, the market has gone way upscale, and your point and shoots now are basically gearing towards professional level features in a much smaller, self-contained camera body.
Yeah, so the subcategory was basically advanced point and shoots.
Yeah. So there's lots of different different varieties of point and shoot cameras. Nowadays, you've got your very compact ones that still have really great features. Ones that come to mind are Sony's RX100 series.
Mm-hmm.
Those range from $400 to $1,000, so there's a good range there of different models to choose from. Panasonic's LX series, those are nice compact ones with lots of great features. a lot of them including 4K at this point. Canon does have a few of those. Nikon has a few of those, although we haven't seen many point and shoots coming from Nikon this year. But there's lots of stuff to choose from when it comes to that sort of compact point and shoot market.
And actually, before we get into that, there are cheaper ones that people still do buy that have a very good reason to, is the waterproof, dustproof, shockproof
Oh yeah.
point and shoots that are basically meant to be able to bring wherever you go in any situation.
And I think we're specifically thinking of Fujifilm's XP cameras.
Yes.
So this year was the XP 120, and every year that's our best-selling camera because they're cheap, they're good for casual photography, they take great video considering the the size of it and the lens that you're using, and they're absolutely indestructible.
Yep.
They're great.
You can bring it, hiking to Mount Everest. You can throw it in the snow, it'll be fine. You can drop it in the mud, nothing will get in it.
And to get a smartphone with those kind of features, you're going to be spending, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars on a top-level smartphone with sealing in it, one that's actually waterproof. And even that, they're not rated to dive down.
Yeah, but I don't think they're fully shockproof.
No, they're not shockproof. You'll drop them on the ground and they'll smash.
Cracks.
So then you got to get a case. So that adds to it. And then you're dealing with them. I don't think they're freeze-proof, right?
No, I don't think so.
Fujifilm stuff is freeze-proof. Most, I should say, all tough cameras are freeze-proof. They go down to like 14 degrees Fahrenheit, so you can take them out in the snow. You can go ice fishing if you wanted to, and you could bring your camera along.
Just, put a string on it and just dip it down in the little...
You could conceivably take your camera, hook it up to your fishing line, and just drop it down to see what's going on under the ice.
It's a great idea.
That's a pretty good deal if you're spending less than $200 on a little tough point-and-shoot camera.
Yeah.
So that's a nice little segment of the market that you can't really achieve with a smartphone, not at this point.
Nope.
So,
but back to the advanced point-and-shoots.
Yeah. So these days, they're really building some really advanced lenses, and they're using larger sensors in a lot of compact point-and-shoots now. So the prices are going to start climbing. You're talking like most point and shoots that people actually enjoy and buy and keep are going to be starting around $400 or $500.
Yeah.
And they climb up there pretty quick. That's because I guess it makes more sense to manufacture sort of enthusiast-friendly cameras that they can bring with them, that they can travel with them. Like we said, the camera that you bring with you is the best camera. So having something that's even more compact but still has advanced features like a large sensor, like a 1-inch sensor. They'll have a nice lens that's got really good optics in it instead of a junky plastic lens that we used to have back in the day. These kinds of features are important to enthusiasts, and they're building them into smaller and smaller cameras so that we can enjoy our photography on a more everyday basis.
Yeah, and I mean, these cameras are also a lot cheaper than the mirrorless and digital SLR counterparts. And
well, I don't know about that, because let's say you get a point-and-shoot camera. It's pretty advanced. It's got a nice big sensor. It's got
we're talking like the super advanced ones that are like 800, 900.
But that's still equivalent to most
digital SLRs,
digital SLRs and mirrorless. So you're just getting it all condensed into a smaller package. The main disadvantage that you're getting with point-and-shoots is the sensor size.
And the fact that you can't change lenses.
Right.
Which could be a pro and a con. But also, point-and-shoots are also kind of geared more towards, I think, people that don't really necessarily want to learn photography and they just want to be able to take good pictures.
Yes, there's more of a casual aspect to it. Or even if you are aiming your products toward photographers, you're basically saying, here's something easy that you can bring along with you and you're still going to get great quality.
Yeah.
That's kind of what they're going towards. It's like, you want to be able to have the power of a DSLR or a mirrorless, and you want it to be in the palm of your hand, but you don't necessarily have to gear this thing towards professionals who want to do a lot of changing of settings and, manual work.
Yeah.
You just want to be able to give it to somebody and say, here you go, point and shoot, as the name would imply, and you will be able to get great pictures out of this. It's just going to cost you a pretty penny.
Yeah. I also noticed the trend, because with the tech support I do and everything, I get asked questions. A lot of people use the point and shoot cameras for like vlogging and like face cams for like when they do like their YouTube videos and like Twitch streams and stuff like that.
Well, they're very useful for video because of the compact size. So if you're shooting with, we'll use a RX100 style camera, series camera as an example. That thing is 4 inches wide, 3 inches tall at the most, and weighs, I don't know, 6 to 8 ounces, something like that. That is very easy to carry. It has image stabilization built into it, or at least the newer ones do. It's going to be shooting, the newer one has 4K, but even if it's not that, you're getting great video quality regardless. And you can easily put one of those on a small little Steadicam or some kind of stabilizer, and you'll be able to get some really awesome footage, and you're going to have variability in your zoom range. It's really going to give you great video quality, and you're not going to have to spend as much as you would, and you're not going to have such a big bulky gear to carry around. So they're very versatile for people who are doing vlogging, or for people who are trying to shoot little short films, or if you're just bumming around the backyard with your family. And of course, then they can go right in your pocket when you're done.
It makes me miss point and shoots.
I've found myself bringing along my point and shoot quite a lot these days. And the camera that I have regularly is an A6000, so it's not that small. It's a mirrorless,
but it's smaller,
so it's compact. But having one that I can actually slip into the pocket of my jeans is it's a big benefit. So there are other point and shoots that are quite a bit bigger than that.
Yeah,
however,
with like the advanced zoom ranges and stuff.
Yeah, lots of point and shoots have cameras with a very long optical zoom built in. So therefore, they have to be bigger. They have to have a big lens built into them. And some of them, like Panasonic has a few of them, the FZ series, those are really big. So they actually rival the size of a compact DSLR. But you have a very versatile lens built into it that has a zoom range of like 24 to 600 or something like that. So you get tons of versatility out of this little thing that's basically the size of like a compact DSLR. But it's all self-contained. Yeah. You don't have to change any lenses. You don't have to worry about dust getting inside. You don't have to, worry about any issues with the lens itself. It's just that this is your unit. You take this with you, and it gives you everything you need. And it still has all the sort of the manual capabilities of a DSLR or a mirrorless. Except what? You're looking at
No, just because I've had a few calls with people with this camera and they've accidentally put it into like a manual mode.
Oh, okay.
And they're like, I don't know what I did. It's like, how do I put it back to where it shoots pictures and they come out properly? And it's just like, oh, you just got to turn
dial.
it
to the green thing.
Yeah. And then, that solves it.
But all right, those kinds of cameras, those will break 4 digits easily. And that's kind of the market they're going for people who want to have everything self-contained, have it really convenient, but still get all the features and quality that you would get from a DSLR. So they'll have, fast frame rates, and they'll have a microphone jack, and they'll have a hot shoe on top so you can shoot with flashes. They'll have wireless built in. They'll have all those great features, except it'll be all self-contained, and you don't have to switch anything around. So it's more convenient for people, and the video quality on those is typically really good too.
Yeah, it's like a little kind of everything goes camera.
So there's a lot to choose from out there, everybody. I mean, I know it is really tough if you hang on a second.
Oof. Caught a little dust in your throat there.
Yeah, verklempt you. There's lots out there to choose from. Whether you decide to go with a DSLR or a mirrorless or a point and shoot, there are a million options for each segment of the camera market. So, how do you choose? How do you even begin to choose? The first thing you got to do is figure out what you need, right?
Yeah. I mean, the biggest thing to do is research. If you can get if you can go to like a camera store, like, Cometa Camera, or stop by your local Best Buy or something like that and just play with some of the cameras, see how they feel in your hand, take a few test shots, see if the pictures are coming out the way you want.
Not that we would encourage you to do some showrooming, but maybe go back to your computer and buy your camera on Cometa.com.
Yeah, I mean, buy it, but I mean, I'm not going to lie, that's how I started researching cameras, I would go into Best Buy and kind of check out their demos.
So not only that, but you obviously have to figure out what your budget is. So
That's a big one.
Depending on how much money you want to spend on a camera, that'll limit your options. But these days, you don't have to spend a lot of money to get a great camera. And even if you don't get a great camera, so to speak, you can still take great pictures.
Yes.
It can be done, and all you have to do is learn more about different concepts of photography, especially lighting. That's probably the most important thing to really master.
You can have the best camera in the world, $5,000-$6,000. If you don't know how to take a picture and how to work your lighting, nothing's going to come out good.
Nope, and we've seen that in action many times. That concept has come true.
Yes.
Over and over and over again. You know, someone who's really adept with lighting and composition can get the most beautiful portraits out of any entry-level DSLR.
Yeah, what was that one guy that we were talking about that was taking like smartphone pictures and he was lighting it with like a Big Mac box? That was impressive.
Yep, and that's the kind of thing that you can do with lighting and composition and figuring out how to position your subjects and all that good stuff that you learn over time. And but first you got to start with the camera.
Yeah, you got to have a camera.
If you haven't decided what you want yet, or if you're just kind of browsing around or thinking about what you want next, then hopefully this podcast gave you a little bit of information to chew on.
And if you have any more questions about this stuff, you can feel free to leave us a comment on any of our social media platforms.
Yep, so you can go to facebook.com/CometaCamera, or you can find us on Twitter. We're just @Cometa. And then, of course, if you want to write directly to us, write to social@cometa.com. That'll go right to me and Nicolai, and we'll answer your questions. And if you have any suggestions or questions that you would want to hear in the show or anything like that, feel free to let us know, drop us a line, and we'll get to them as soon as we can.
Yeah, we have a lot of various subjects we want to touch on, but it's a long list, so if we can figure out what people really want to learn and what they want to hear about, that would help us out a lot.
Yeah, and we'll reach out to people. If you like us on Facebook or if you follow us on Twitter, we'll reach out and hopefully get some questions out to you guys, and maybe we'll answer them on the show. Yeah, actually, definitely we would. We just haven't had any questions yet because we just started this thing, so we're working on it. We're on episode number 4 now, and we're hoping that there'll be many more to come. There's certainly plenty to talk about.
Yes.
So
never-ending subjects.
So that's about it for Camera Academy today. I think we pretty much covered it all as far as camera types. There are different types of cameras out there. There's action cams, and obviously there's camcorders for video. There's medium format cameras out there, which are very expensive, but there's not a lot of them. Fujifilm pretty much makes the only digital one. There are
Mirrorless
digital backs, of course. There are large format cameras, which we would not even get into because we've never carried one and we probably never will.
Not even film ones?
We might have a few film ones in the used department. So if you're looking for a used large format camera, possibly one from the 40s, head over to cometa.com/used and you'll be able to hopefully find something there. But that's definitely not our bread and butter.
No.
That's not what we specialize in. And so if one of those camera types, DSLR, mirrorless, point and shoot, appeals to you, and it should, because we all want to take great pictures, and that's pretty much what's out there, check out cometa.com and do some research, because we've got pretty much all the top camera models and all the accessories you'll ever need. So feel free to shop on cometa.com or just give us a call and we'll answer any questions that you might have.
Yes.
And that's it, right?
That's the episode.
Okay, so until next time, we will fix it in post. See you later.
Pop.
What was that? Okay.
Try to do different things here. Pop.